Yeah, the bigger brands, the top 50 brands in the country, so where the spends are of a certain size, they are spending on ad fraud solutions, and they're extremely mature, and in terms of the solutions they're picking up from the market. So yeah, the answer is yes. I think we've come a long way. So all the frauds which are happening through the bots, they've largely been taken care of at this point of time. There is a lot of there are click forms out there where countries like some of the third world countries actually large number of people and sit and just click. So even that's coming under certain control. I think the tough ones to crack, and I think they can never be cracked, is where when you create something like a UGC-led fraud, meaning that today you could actually increase your number of followers on your Insta account or your even on your YouTube account, where what happens is there's some software which will come in, or some app which will come in, which will let you increase the following of let's say another person, who in turn has to do the same number of clicks and increase the number of the prior guy. But when a very large number of people in a circular way start clicking, so they are actual humans, they are actually following other people, but in return they're getting followers. So this is very user generated, so it's very, so there is so those kind of frauds, we can't even know that we can call it fraud, because it is just it's a circular thing. So I think those kinds are the tough ones, but rest, I think, which are pure frauds, are coming under the hammer very quickly. See, ad fraud starts where where the money starts. So, and the money starts from the from the client, and then we were discussing earlier today that so depending upon the maturity level of the client and the total spends involved, etc. So different types of metrics which get set up. So so if metrics are just impressions, there is higher potential of fraud. But if the metric is actually the end goal of transaction, which should be delivered, and payouts happen basis transaction, the fraud will come down dramatically. And but I've oversimplified it, but it's way more complex, and it varies from industry to industry. And FMCG would want largely brand impressions, but e-commerce companies would want transaction led, or some of the growing companies would want app install campaigns, etc. So it's a combination of various things. But yeah, somewhere extent of fraud is dependent on the metrics which are getting set by the advertiser. So yeah, more and more maturity happening there, and less of the fraud will happen. MMA is an excellent platform. It is it is where the policies get set up, and this is where it's a platform where the brands, the agencies, the publishers can all come together and it solves some of the industry problems. I think so thumbs up on the platform per se. So I would, in fact, my suggestion to MMA would be, I think ad fraud is relatively let's say a sub problem or a smaller problem, and I think MMA can step up and give direction to the industry in general, because there is something which is not going right in the whole advertising industry of India. So I mean, I said that earlier also, that the whole ADEX being 10 billion and lesser than what the ADEX of Indonesia, for example, or 1/10 of what is there in China, is we need to do something to grow the whole advertising industry, and I think MMA is the best platform to help deliver that. That's point number one. Point number two, today the way India is, the digital penetration and the amount of data which is getting used, actually India is doing more data than US and China put together right now. So why is China and US have crossed 50% on digital as an overall spend, while India is still at about 20%. It actually should be more. So on an MMA platform, to basically move the current digital spends to 7 or 8x, so you move the total AdX to 3x and the digital spends to about 7 or 8x. And while that is done, of course, a bigger responsibility of ad fraud needs to be catered to. And then I think within this platform, I think it is a place where we can discuss that there is a certain there's a size of fraud, but then we have to split that fraud in what's happening on the platforms and what's happening on the websites, what's happening on the data side, etc., and really go to the granularity of the fraud, etc., and then have task teams set up to actually cater to all these problems. And I think fraud is also to do, we've discussed it earlier, to do with the maturity of media buyers, and if there is some gap that can be filled, and MMA can get involved with that, so I think big role to play. I think looking at that we all want to look up to MMA because it's a single platform. We're all looking at MMA as somewhere where all the stakeholders can come together. So that would be at least my few cents on MMA.